Okay. Hi, everyone. I've just unmuted myself. And for those of you who have not met me before, I am Susan with the Alzheimer's Society. And so this is our very first live presentation that we're doing. So it's very exciting, and we're all adapting to this new world of using technology. So we appreciate your patience very much. So our topic for today, again, as it says, is safety in the home in the time of COVID-19. So we're certainly adjusting a lot, and we're learning things every day, and certainly things are evolving every day, and we're learning new resources. So what we're going to talk about today, our outline, we're going to just go over some basic safety concerns related to COVID. We'll talk a little about the concept, and I'll do my little social distancing, and we'll talk about how we can look at that a little bit differently. Looking at the idea around isolation. So if we're distancing ourselves, there's a risk of isolation. So we'll look at the role of routines and communication to help combat this. And we'll touch briefly on the idea around supplies. So how do we keep ourselves with the things that we need, and looking at those resources. Speaking of resources, we'll tell you how to access a lot of really good ones. And constantly there are new things coming on the line. So certainly keep in touch with us, with your support team, and we'll keep you updated as well. And we'll just touch a little bit on some future webinars that are going to be coming up over the next couple of months. Okay, so kicking off. So this is a big one. So keeping up to date on the current situation. We know it's a very fast moving situation, and we're kind of bombarded with a lot of information day by day and even hour by hour. So really looking at where are we getting our information from? So reliable sources. So obviously Public Health Ontario is very updated, our local health unit. And if you're watching this later and you're from outside of London, Middlesex, looking at your own local health unit and your local Alzheimer's Society and other support agencies in your community. It's also important to know how to protect yourself if you're a care partner and anyone that you support in your household. So one of the things to talk about is around hand hygiene. And I'm sure we've heard so much about this. It's really looking at, again, keeping your hands clean and appreciating that in this time, this is one thing they tell us over and over again is wash your hands. So it's certainly if you're supporting someone who's more vulnerable, who may be more prone to illness, including those living with dementia, this is really key. And it's going to be potentially tougher. So if the person, just a little note, I made a note of this, if you notice that the person living with dementia is suddenly much more confused than ever before, there's just something unusual going on with their confusion level, really check in with your healthcare team, because this could be a sign of illness presenting itself. So really look for things that are just atypical. So just a note. So looking at kind of hand washing techniques, there's lots of videos and things that you can access online. And one of the things they talk about actually is, humming a song or singing a song, and music is great at this time as well. And they say that, 20 seconds is kind of the key. The other thing, and there's other tips, you can put signs up by the sink and just reminders to help the person. But basically, if, once you're in the home, if you've gone out for any reason, we'll talk more about that, and you come in, that's the key time to get your hands washed right away. And once you're in the house, as long as you've done that, you probably don't need to keep washing your hands all day long, as long as you're not kind of going back out of the house again. So really that keeping that in mind. And just a note, if the hand washing thing is a little bit more challenging, then think about alcohol-based hand sanitizer. And it is 60% or more if it's ethanol-based, and 70% or more if it's isopropyl-based. So just keeping those parameters in mind. But going back to the idea of song, so I love singing. I don't do it well, but this is something that I can do to help me wash my hands. And again, 20 seconds can seem like a really long time. And I know the original advice was to sing Happy Birthday twice, but maybe you're tired of that. So what else can we do? So I have a few songs to show you, and we're just going to see a little engagement. Think about which of these songs would you choose for your hand washing song. So I'm just going to put up a poll here. This is very exciting. And you can vote. For which hand washing song would you pick to get your 20 seconds of hand washing time? And in many cases, it's about the chorus. I think the Sound of Music ones are pretty straightforward. So I'll give you a few more minutes to vote. We see some, okay, some variety here. This is great. I will show you what the poll looks like in a moment. This is wonderful. So give you a few more seconds to vote. It's a really good eclectic mix here. This is awesome. Okay, good, wow. All right, something for everyone. So not a lot of Sound of Music fans so far. Okay, so I'm going to stop the poll. And I will show you what we have here. So we can see, I think the winner, well, we got tied. So we got a couple people for the Bee Gees and a couple people who love the musical Singing in the Rain. So that's great. So thank you for indulging me with that. And it gives us a chance to kind of check the technology as well. All right, moving on. Talking a little bit more about this. So again, when we talk about protecting ourselves and anyone else that we support, we want to think about you as a care partner. So I'm assuming most of you are care partners who are on this webinar. And again, it's really more important. We talk about this all the time, even before COVID. It's more important than ever, though, to take care of your own health. So we want you to be thinking ahead, though. And if you've been on any of the support groups so far or on our website, thinking about, making those plans. We hope that you don't need them, but it's better to have those plans in place should you or the primary care partner, if that's you, become sick. And I'll show you a resource in a moment and let you know how to access that. Also, it's great, and this, again, we've always said this before, even before the time of COVID, it's good to have things prepared. So you can have an emergency bag prepared for each of you and have, clothes and medications and emergency contact information all ready to go, just so you don't have to worry about it if it's really urgent. So a couple of resources to show you, and you'll see that I've indicated number 1 and number 2. There's some specific resources that I'll be referencing, and I'll let you know how to get those at the end of the presentation. So the first one, this is just a screenshot of the first page. This is a document that was developed in a partnership with the Alzheimer's Societies across Ontario. And so you can get one from your local society, you can get one from us. It will be posted on our website in the next week or two. But if you want anything more urgently, my email's at the end of the presentation, or you can touch base with your support worker and we can get this to you. Either we can email it to you or we can mail it to you. And this is a multi-page document. This is just the first page that we're seeing here. The other one I referenced again is around being prepared for emergency room visit. This is a document, some resources that were prepared by the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, and they have been around for a few years, so it's not just for now. Again, there's a bit of a checklist for other things that you might need to know. So again, information about who this person is as a person living with dementia, things about my medication, my wishes, again, similar to the document I just showed you, about the ready to go bag and planning ahead for coming home. And then on the right, we'll see just a little bit more information on that go bag. So now we're going to talk a little bit about this concept of, again, social distancing. And I think we've started to move away from the word social, because I think we know that that's not helpful and it's not really what it's all about. So we're really talking more about the idea of being physically distanced versus socially. We want people to stay socially connected. And thinking, okay, the person living with dementia, what is their actual understanding of physical distancing? What is their actual understanding of what's happening right now with the pandemic? If you are concerned about the person living with dementia, if they're not understanding, why they can't be going to the store, why they can't be getting close to people that they were close to before, you might want to think more carefully about going out to these places because it's going to be a bigger situation of risk. So then we'll look at more about making alternate arrangements, and we'll talk again about that as we go along. So there is a really great resource that's just come out in the last couple of weeks, and I really appreciate that this was put together with some urgency. And this is just the cover page. It's a book, kind of book. It's a PDF, and we can get this out to you. It's a very simple, plain language book that was put together by a woman named Gail Elliott. She used to work for McMaster. She's now works with a group called Dementiability in kind of the Halton area, but really well put together. And if it's a concern, again, communicating with the person living with dementia, this is a great tool to use to go through and have it as a, you can go through it every day or when you need it. So talking a little bit more about social distancing, again, my quotation marks. So this is, even if we're not physically together and we are feeling a little bit more pent up in our homes, for example, we still need to keep active. There's lots of opportunities to exercise in our own home. Again, I live in a fairly small apartment, and I've cleared out a little bit of space to do this. And it's not a lot of space, but it's enough. And actually, interesting story, little personal story I'll share. So I'm a dragon boater. So this is really challenging for dragon boaters. But I was reading an article about a dragon boat team in, I think it might have been in somewhere in China. And they're a fairly new dragon boat team. And some of these new members, they're like, we're off the water, but we still need to keep going. And they showed people using, again, even much smaller spaces than we have here. We're still carving out, one woman was practicing her paddling on her couch. And it showed her, on her couch, with her paddling and everything, but she was still using the space she had to keep active. So we can figure that out. Online, we have, for the last few weeks, we have it's called a virtual social recreation page, which is great. We've loaded up lots of different activities, including exercise. And we even have a virtual Minds in Motion, which is a very popular program of ours. And you can follow along with that activity. You can also go for walks outside if you can safely maintain that distance from passersby. And they say 6 feet or 2 meters at a minimum. So if that is a concern, again, that you might not be able to do that, then think about that a little bit more carefully, or choose times of the day that might be a little quieter. Also, just a note to keep checking in with us. There's constantly information coming, new information that we can share with you. And again, keep connecting with support staff from the Alzheimer's Society, your local community agency, your local society, to keep on top of the new resources that are available. So I just wanted to show this because I'm a very visual person, and I know what does 2 meters look like. And I saw something online where somebody had this very elaborate contraption that they put on themselves, that big circle hoop thing that sort of showed the 2 meters. But I found this from our friends up in the Yukon. And if you can imagine the size of a caribou, then you want to keep the length of a caribou apart. And also kind of quite funny, they do actually stay at least 90 meters away from an actual caribou, because I'm guessing they're a little bit feisty if you get too close. So when we talk about social distancing or physical distancing, there can be a risk that comes with this around isolation. So we want to think about how can we combat isolation. So big one is to keep up a daily routine. And I think, I know for myself, I'm trying to practice this, getting up at the same time, following my usual routine, what have you, and I think it helps in this time. So maintain that routine for your activities, your meals, your bedtime, all of that's really important. Using a calendar for the day, for the week or the day, scheduling, having all of your activities on that calendar. And that's something that you can plan in consultation with the person you're supporting, and thinking about what are those activities going to be. There might be some, you can access some, probably some just simple online calendars. You can access, maybe just make your own calendar. It could be an activity just to make the actual calendar itself. Again, keep it simple, not a lot of extra stuff. And then you can post it in that prominent spot. So as you go through your day, the person living with dementia knows that this is where the information is going to be, and they can go there to get that information. So I think that helps to just sort of kind of reduce a bit of anxiety, to know, what am I supposed to do? And I think it helps the care partner to know what's going to happen in the day. So it just removes a little bit of that uncertainty and helps to reduce anxiety. All right, so again, how can we continue to reduce that risk of isolation? So part of that daily routine can be scheduling a regular time to connect with people. So have that actually on your calendar. So it could be, every day at 10 o'clock, we're going to talk to a certain member of the family or different members of the family, but that's our contact time perhaps. And you could be rotating through a group of people depending on your circle. And keeping that list of contacts by the phone, and ideally with a matching photo. So it just helps to have that visual reminder of who this person is, and especially in key for if there's a person living with dementia on their own, but having that contact by the phone. And we'll talk a little bit about technology, and you're using it now, which is great. So looking at connecting with family and friends, whether it be a video call, again, you have the free version of Zoom. There's lots of different apps out there other than Zoom. So use things that are comfortable for you, even just by the phone. I've talked to way more people on the phone than I normally would have during this time, and just making use of things like social media. So this is a great resource, and it'll be linked later. And if you can't locate it, I'm happy to send you a copy. So this is put out by the Ontario Caregiver Organization. And they have a lot of great resources, but they've also added some specific COVID-19 resources. So this is a great tool about how technology can support caregivers during COVID-19. So looking at this combating isolation again. So we know that when there are changes in routine, increased isolation and anxiety may leave the person living with dementia and the care partner feeling more restless and unsettled. So some tips. So these are from our friends at the Alzheimer's Society in New Zealand. Try to stay calm. So first one, remain calm. So comfort and reassure the person that you're supporting using touch and words. And you may find things like pets or animals can be reassuring. If you don't have your own pet, you can find them online. Everything's online. So I always say that you can always find a great cat video. Who doesn't love a great cat video, or cats hanging out with dogs, or cats stressing dogs out? And also we have a great nature therapy video on our virtual social recreation page. So it helps to tune into nature. If you can't get to it, again, spring's just around the corner, but it's a lovely, lovely video that you can access on our social recreation page. I believe it's on Tuesday. So some more tips. Listen to the person. Try not to argue with them. If you've come to any of our sessions before, I know you know this. Really thinking about what might be causing the person to be feeling this way. So it could be a basic need. Maybe they're hungry or thirsty or tired. They need to use the toilet. So it could be just a basic need, and just trying to go through those and check those off. Just double checking that all of the prescribed medications have been taken. Engage the person with an enjoyable or calming activity, and you know them best. So think about, what are the sorts of things that can help make that person happy. And think about that for yourself too. So what are your go-to things for coping when things are tough? And everyone is going to be a little bit different. It could be, again, it could be music, it could be exercise, it could be what have you, but have those go-tos at the ready. And just a reminder, we do have some wonderful archived speaker series events on our website, and I've included the link to communication and dementia. And just this is what you'll see when you go on. And it's 3 different guest speakers or presenters who talked about different aspects of communication. These are all separately listed, so you can watch one, you can watch them all, and they fit really well together. So talking a little bit more about communication, and these slides actually I stole from my Dementia Friendly Communities slide deck, but they're very helpful here. So I love this slide, and it really helps to remind us about how we communicate, at least here kind of in our Western society here. So I'm always struck by how small that word section is. So it's just really, really tiny. And really a big part of our communication is always our body language, our facial expressions, and qualities related to our voice. So when we think about when we're communicating with a person living with dementia, even before we speak, what are we going to put into place? And I know we don't always consciously think about this, but sort of really trying to slow down and think about, am I setting myself up for success in this communication? So even before I speak, are there any distractions? Again, if we're in the home, maybe we have the radio on in the background, we've got a TV on, we've got something else happening. That might be really hard. So there could be just way too much going on in the space. Making eye contact and using the person's name. You know, if we're with this person all the time, again, think about even aside from dementia, when we're living in a space with someone, we're kind of used to just sort of, talking, and we're not really, we're talking in this direction, the person's over here. But we really need to be mindful that when we're communicating with a person with dementia, we really need to look at them and really use their name to make sure that we have their attention. If the person needs a hearing aid, it's important to make sure that they're wearing it, that it's working properly. And this could be something, if the batteries are out or there's something, an issue, again, looking at putting this in your supply thing that we're going to talk about. How do we get these supplies that we need? How do we, connect in with the service that got you your hearing aid, see how you can get it fixed if it's broken. There's still a lot of things that we can do in terms of behind the scenes. And this one really thinking about perhaps not yourself, maybe the case, but if you're on the phone with a family member, and especially if they can't see them, it might be hard. Person on the phone, just cue them ahead of time to say, you need to remind this person who you are. If you're on a virtual visit, a video chat, again, we don't want to make an assumption when the person pops up that they'll know exactly who it is. So, make sure that people are kind of introducing themselves. How do we speak? So we need to be close enough. So again, those things often when you're living in the same home as someone, you get used to like talking to them from another room, and that's probably not going to work very well. So make sure that we're close enough so we can look at them, that they can hear us, that they can see us. Speak clearly. Slow down a little bit. Short, simple sentences. So just one idea at a time. And keep in mind that a lot of this takes practice. It doesn't come overnight. Closed-ended questions. So these would be more of a yes or no answer, or we say sort of a forced choice. So rather than what would you like to drink, would you like apple juice or orange juice? Would you like this or this? So it's a little bit easier for the person living with dementia to kind of process that in the moment than a big open-ended question. And often most of us don't do well with big open-ended questions, especially when we're under stress. It's just too hard to make that decision. And just showing always that respect and patience. And then how do we listen? So just like we said before, thinking about that pie chart, we need to listen carefully and really pay attention to both the verbal, the words, the little blue section, but also all of the other sections of that pie too. So what is the person's body language telling me? What are their facial expressions telling me? What is their voice telling me? So all of that is important. Being patient and trying not to interrupt. So we really just want to give the person more time, and thinking that if a person living with dementia has their brain function is compromised, it's going to take them a lot longer to get the information in, process it, formulate a response, and get the response out again. So we just have to give a lot more time. If the person is struggling to find words, then think about that two-way communication. Sometimes we can offer some help, but just make sure that that's what they want. So we say it's always a two-way process. So to say, would you like me to offer the word for you? And they can say yes, or they can say, no, please give me more time. And then the last one is around assumptions. And we all know different stories about assumptions and assuming. But if we're not sure, it's always good to ask again. So just rather than jumping to a conclusion and then we get it wrong and things kind of spiral, just say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Please tell me again, take your time. So moving on and talking about supply. So this can be, again, a big challenge, especially in this current environment. How do we get the things that we need? And in some cases, I know I've heard about some friends who have family in the UK, and they've been pretty strict there. I think a little bit more strict than here. Really, anyone over the age of 70 is really not supposed to leave their home at all. So looking at how can we, if that's the case, if we're not leaving the home, how can we get the things that we need? So we can be checking in with, again, our pharmacist or doctor about getting the maximum number of days that we can for our medications to reduce trips to the pharmacy. And I think most pharmacies are hopefully pretty accommodating, and doctors as well, to understand, especially for those who are needing to self-isolate because they may have compromised health or they're older adults, that they might be willing to work with you on that. And then look for services or pharmacies that can arrange for deliveries, or ask a family member, a friend, a neighbor to help pick those things up for you. Keeping in mind that at this time there are so many people who are wanting to help. It's one of the interesting or kind of good, if there's a good, parts about this pandemic is how people are really rallying to support others. So really take advantage of that. And it's I'm getting chills just thinking about it, how supportive people are and helping those who need it. So looking at this and a little bit more, keeping a few weeks worth of essential supplies, so food, basic food, hygiene, and health products, does not mean to, we talked about earlier about the hoarding of toilet paper, what have you. So this is not about collecting, months worth of things and having a bunker and what have you, but really keeping a few key items, well stocked so that you have them, so that you're not feeling anxious about not having them. And considering, again, stores with delivery services, I know some of them are really backed up. It takes a lot of time to get a spot, but talk, maybe look at smaller, more independent stores. So ask around, certainly check in with the support team here to see if they have some ideas, talk with your social network, see where you can get things. But really, really look at, are there others in your support network who can help you to get groceries? And often it could just be one person who might get groceries for 4 or 5 different households. So earlier I had referenced some of these resources. A few other things, again, we do have on our website, I'm sure if you can see my mouse here, our website, we are updating things regularly. We're adding resources. We're adding, on Monday, I believe, we're adding a new care partner section where we're going to be adding resources for care partners. And then next will come an education hub where this webinar will be archived and future webinars will be archived. So we'll be putting more information there. Speak with your local society or local community agency to see what other resources they might have. Really great website if you're a care partner is Dementia Cares. If you're not already familiar with it, they're adding resources as well. A lot of great tips there and resources as well. This first document is the one I mentioned at the beginning. It will at some point be on our website, but if you would like it sooner, either speak with your support worker or send me an email. My email is down here at the bottom, soster@alzheimerlondon.ca, and I would be happy to email any of these resources to you or connect with your support worker to get them mailed out to you. And like we said, these links will be available probably in a week or 2 or 3 on our website. But again, if you'd like them more urgently, then please let us know. This is a big daunting screen, just to show you some of the references and resources that inspired the content of the presentation. And there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's more all the time. And there's even another page of this. So this last one actually was one that I just added, I think yesterday or the day before, from the Mental Health Commission, really talking about using sources of information carefully. and again, not being bombarded, and where do you get your information from? So I'm just going to launch another poll here. Just a bit of an evaluation. This will help us. So we're happy to have you fill this out, and this will help us to know if these sorts of webinars are helpful. I should say these are anonymous as well. I don't know who's saying what, so I should have said that before. So I don't know who likes Sound of Music or Staying Alive. And so leave this up for another few seconds. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for some questions. Great. Great, so thank you very much. And take that off. So some of our future webinars coming up. So our timeline will be typically to have these at the same time, same date, same time. So same bat time, same bat station, shows my era. We will have next week, Dina will be facilitating looking at an overview of the risk of, or understanding the risk of person with living with dementia going missing. So if that's a concern, a safety concern, and then we'll talk about going outside of the home, considerations related to COVID-19. And even by the time that comes up, again, the information we're presenting might change from what we think it might be right now. We'll talk generally about safety planning and what to do if a person living with dementia goes missing. There will be more after that. And we are lining up some special guest presenters as well. So we're very excited to be getting some guest presenters to come in to talk about some topics that we're hearing are very important. And so we'll have more information for you on that. So certainly if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, that's the best place to get information, because we are sending out the topics and the information usually on a Sunday. And we'll be obviously posting information to our social media channels. But if you're not connected to us, sign up for a newsletter on our website. Great, so just trying to see if there are any questions. You can put them in the chat box, or I think there's a function to raise your hand, and we can potentially then, Dina can unmute you if you want to say it out loud.